Wednesday's City Council meeting, Portland City Council meeting, our 9:30 meeting. Caller, please call the roll.
Daly,
Here.
Fritz,
Here.
Wheeler, Hardesty.
Here. Caller, before you move on, I just want to say that I want to share my condolences on the loss of the mayor's mother. He will not be with us today, but he plans to be back tomorrow for council session. And maybe just a couple of minutes of silence before we move into the agenda. Thank you all. Under Portland City Code and state law, the City Council is holding this meeting electronically. All members of council are attending remotely by phone, and the city has made several avenues available for the public to listen to the audio broadcast of this meeting. The public can also provide written testimony to council by emailing the council clerk. The council is taking these steps as a result of COVID-19 pandemic and the need to limit in-person contact and promote social distancing. The pandemic is an emergency that threatens the public health, safety, and welfare, which requires us to meet remotely by electronic communications. Thank you all for your patience, flexibility, and understanding as we manage through this difficult situation to do the city's business. Lindley, Reese, would you give us the rules of decorum, or is that Robert today?
That's me, Madam Presiding Officer. To participate in council meetings, you may sign up in advance with the council clerk's office for communications to briefly speak about any subject. You may also sign up for public testimony on resolutions or the first readings of ordinances. The published council agenda at portlandoregon.gov/auditor contains information about how and when you may sign up for testimony while the City Council is holding electronic meetings. Your testimony should address the matter being considered at the time. When testifying, please state your name for the record. Your address is not necessary. Please disclose if you are a lobbyist. If you are representing an organization, please identify it. The presiding officer determines the length of testimony. Individuals generally have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When your time is up, the presiding officer will ask you to conclude. Disruptive conduct such as shouting, refusing to conclude your testimony when your time is up, or interrupting others' testimony or council deliberations will not be allowed. If there are disruptions, a warning will be given that further disruption may result in the person being placed on hold or ejected from the remainder of the electronic meeting. Finally, please be aware that all council meetings are recorded.
Thank you very much. Caller, has any items been pulled from the consent agenda?
We do have one communication speaker.
Oh, my apologies. Would you please read 430, please?
Certainly. Request of Anna to address council regarding proposed budget.
Welcome, Anna.
Thank you. Good morning, City Commissioners, and my condolences to Mayor Wheeler and for his mother. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Again, my name is Anna. I grew up in Portland and worked as an administrative assistant in the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office as a summer job for 3 years. In the wake of the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, James Scurlock, Tony McDade, and so many Black people before them, I'm asking you to withdraw $50 million from the Portland Police Bureau budget and reallocate those resources to trauma-informed crisis intervention, affordable housing, and other community resources that will benefit public safety for all. The proposed $7 million reduction to the original budget still increases the PPB budget over last year and thus increases the policing of Black Portlanders and other marginalized members of our community. When I worked for Multnomah County, I filed countless reports illuminating disproportionate policing of Black and Brown community members. On more than one occasion, I heard staff referring to Black men going to prison and say his dad was in prison too, as though it was inevitable. If you acknowledge that policing and imprisoning adults leads to policing and imprisoning their children sooner or later, why aren't we investing in community-based solutions to break this cycle? I saw so many people punished for repeat offenses like shoplifting to obtain necessities like food and hygiene supplies, or goods to resell to support themselves. At the root of this, quote, crime are individuals and families' unmet needs, an illumination of the inequity in our community. Instead of using $240 million of our city's resources towards ineffective punitive measures like endless fines and jail sentences, what if we prioritized offering employment counseling, mental health care, and other social services to address the root cause? I often heard DA staff members say of these individuals, when will they learn? And the question I would like to ask is, when will we learn? Can we admit that our justice system isn't addressing the root of the problems facing our community? According to the Oregon government's website, 56% of people released from our prison system after being convicted of a felony reoffend within 3 years. This emphasis on policing isn't actually correcting our problems. The Oregon Department of Corrections says 61% of people in our prisons have documented dependence and addiction issues, while only 11% receive treatment. 33% suffer from mental health challenges that go largely unaddressed, and 50% are experiencing houselessness and do not arrive in a better socioeconomic position post-release. Where is the justice in that? When I began my work in the DA's office, I believed it was the right thing because that's what I was taught. And now I know there are better options. I cannot take back the ways I unknowingly contributed to systemic violence against Black people in my community, but I can choose how I participate in fighting for racial equity today and moving forward. You have the incredible opportunity to be true leaders and make a commitment to stand on the right side of history. Redirecting $50 million away from the PPB and towards services that will decrease the need for policing is a step in the right direction. You will be in the history books for this either way. Cutting the Portland police budget by $50 million will show your commitment to making Portland a truly safer, healthier city for Black Portlanders and for all of us. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. It is greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Caller, we have a time certain, item 431.
Sorry, did you want to do the consent agenda?
Yes, caller, thank you so much. I'm a little
Sure.
discombobulated this morning. Yes, I do. I understand that there have been many items pulled off consent.
There has, and without having four, I understand we're continuing it to next week.
Yes,
The items that did not get pulled, is that everybody's understanding?
that is my understanding as well. So
Okay, so I can read the numbers that were requested to be pulled,
Thank you.
certainly. Item 437, 438, 439, 441, and 442.
Thank you, Carla. So with the remaining item on consent, would you please call the roll?
We need four people to do that. It was my understanding it was going to be, the bulk of the consent was going to be continued to next week. Robert, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
That's correct, Carla. So I think the items that have been pulled can be considered later today on this agenda, and then the other items can be on the consent agenda can be carried over until next week. Any items that were pulled that were emergency ordinances would also require 4 votes. So they could not be finally voted on today without 4 commissioners in attendance.
Excellent. So we are going to hold those items until we can bring them back when we'll have 4 of us to vote on it. Is that accurate?
Robert, were we going to go ahead and read those? Either Gillis pulled those first 4. Were we going to hear those and then continue them to vote next week?
Yes, I think that's a good plan, Carla.
Okay.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the patience of the public that's listening. As I said earlier, we're a little discombobulated, and I think our hearts are going out to the mayor this morning. So we had to do all this on the fly. So I'm grateful for people's participation. And while we're clarifying how the council agenda will proceed today, I just want to make sure that people know that the item having to do with RIP, there is will be continued until Thursday afternoon, and it will be a date and time certain. So it'll be after 2:40 p.m. on Thursday. That was originally scheduled to be heard today, and that has been transferred to tomorrow. I should also say that for people who are planning to testify on the city's budget today, we plan to take public testimony later today, but we will not be moving amendments until tomorrow, where we hope the mayor will be able to come and participate with us. Just for the sake of the public knowing what's going on, as everything changes very quickly.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. And on the item for RIP, that is scheduled for tomorrow. And depending on if there's time to hear that with the budget being moved to tomorrow, then the RIP matter might also be continued to a further date. So the public should stay tuned for that, and we'll make an announcement tomorrow about the date and time certain for the RIP hearing if that gets moved. But I think that's what will likely happen, given that the budget is also, the vote on the budget would move to tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification, and I know the public does. Yes, it's just been a whirlwind kind of week. And so, caller, if you would read our first time certain, item 431, please.
Sorry. 431, proclaim June 2020 to be Portland Pride Month.
Thank you so much. Can I have 5 minutes, please? It appears that the documents that were sent were not attached to the email. If we can take a 5-minute break, I will get my paperwork and come back. Thank you. Please read item 431. Caller?
I guess who was muted?
It's that kind of morning. I think all of us should take a deep breath and just center ourselves.
That is right. 431, proclaim June of 2020 to be Portland Pride Month.
Thank you. I will, it is my pleasure to welcome today Deborah Porter from Pride Northwest, Erin Waters from Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity Consultant with Northwest for Kaiser Permanente to provide our presentation today. I believe that Erin Waters wants to speak first. Please welcome to the council.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I actually want to make clear I'm not here on behalf of Kaiser today. I'm just here on behalf of myself. So my name is Erin Waters, she, her pronouns. I am a Portland resident. I am Black. I am a woman married to a woman, and I'm transgender. My life is lived on a precipice of danger which I had no hand in creating for myself and does not come with the benefit of hazard pay or paid time off to grieve. I can't say that I have a whole lot of original words today because everything I'm saying has been said before. Into the easy comfort of people's living rooms by James Baldwin, into Ivory Towers by Audre Lorde, from bookshelves by Angela Davis, and down into the very middle of our streets by Marsha P. Johnson and Miss Major Griffin Gracie. The heroes of my community never wore capes. What they wore was a sense of pride, strong enough in who they were to rise up and fight back against the discrimination which tried to erase them. Stonewall in '69 was without a doubt a turning point, a clear rising of revolution, that tide which will one day wash away all the dirt and tear gas and rubber bullets and pepper spray as having been worth it. It's a fight that continues today in so many ways, evidenced in part by Black, Indigenous, and people of color who are transgender, disabled, and neurodivergent who suffer the greatest abuses in our society. In order for us to find safety in our city, our neighbors and supporters must move beyond mere definitions of our identities, labels which allow people to languish in the idea that just because they can say the word intersectionality, that they are working with an intersectional lens. Our leaders must stop playing whack-a-mole when creating plans to fix the problems we face, as though you can fix this group and that group and that group without confronting the core of the issues which cause the discrimination against us. People are asking for more than platitudes and pretty words and virtue signaling for a world that has never actually existed. Angela Davis told us that you have to act as if it were possible to radically transform the world, and you have to do it all the time. And back in 1973, at the Christopher Street Liberation Day rally in New York, Sylvia Rivera told everyone to get up and support everyone, all of us, from the most to the least. So that's my ask today, that our neighbors in the city of Portland in particular become more than just allies in name. We need you to become accomplices, to stand up, speak out, offer real support, and be the courageous leaders and supporters we claim ourselves to be every rainbow-washed month of June. We need you to understand that Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera and Stormy DeLavier and Miss Major Griffin Gracie didn't start what the white middle class called a riot for our white queer counterparts and straight neighbors of any color to stay silent. We're not done marching or protesting or being proud of ourselves, and we need that to be understood now as much as ever. Thank you very much. I appreciate the council's time and energy today, and I'm looking for a more radical future. Thank you.
You and me both, Erin. Thank you so much for your testimony today. Deborah Porter, you're next.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Commissioners, I want to take a moment and thank Erin for speaking out today, speaking out as always, and bringing truth into the room. My name is Deborah Porta. I'm executive. I struggled a lot to come up with the words that I wanted to speak today, and I don't have a lot, but I want to say what I'm feeling. In all of my years of Pride Northwest, coming up on 14 at this point, I've seen the progress that the city of Portland has made in its relationship with its LGBTQ+ community. I remember a time when pride proclamations, the simplest recognition an elected body can give, were few and far between, when members of this body informed me that it was my responsibility to remind them to take notice and to recognize my community. I credit and honor the work of LGBTQ plus city employees like Debbie Castleton and the tireless work of DEEP with driving much of that progress. But I've also seen the backlash and experienced the backlash when Pride Northwest dared to speak truth to power and tried to open a doorway to progress. So I know there's still a lot of work to do. The roots of Pride have much in common with the movement for equality, equity, and justice being born, or should I say reinvigorated, in our city and in cities and towns across this country. Pride Northwest stands firmly with the Black community and all communities of color, as their community is our community, and our community is their community. We appreciate this recognition on the part of Portland City Council, and we look forward to working with you to build a future that is long overdue. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Now I will open it up to my colleagues if they want to if they have any remarks prior to me reading the proclamation on behalf of the City of Portland. Commissioner Udaley.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to briefly remind Portlanders that Pride started with a riot. On June 28th, 1969, the NYPD raided the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village. Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, both trans women of color, were empowered by the Black Power, anti-war, and women's liberation movements, and together they led the LGBTQ community to push back. On the anniversary of the Stonewall riots in 1970, the LGBTQ community gathered for the first annual Pride to celebrate their identities openly and formally launch the gay liberation movement. Now more than ever, it's crucial to remember where this movement came from and to remember who started it. Remember Marsha P. Johnson, remember Sylvia Rivera, remember Tony McDade. Remember that the fight for justice often starts with historically marginalized leaders, with unrest, with protest, and with a direct challenge to oppression in the status quo. Happy Pride.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Fritz, would you like to say anything?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Deborah Porter, for your long-time leadership of the Pride movement and for all that you've taught me over the years. And I'm glad that you mentioned Debbie Castleton and the work of DEEP as well. There has been a movement within the city, and it's good to see. Pride Month is about many things. To me, it means supporting our LGBTQ plus communities in living freely or fully and authentically. When Pride Month is often celebratory, and the Pride Parade is one of the most joyful things I ever get to do on the council. We are in a moment where there's a great need for community healing, to center Black voices and for white elected people like myself to listen. Specifically, the Black Lives Matter movement has helped elevate an epidemic of violence against Black trans women and trans women of color. It's crucial to acknowledge that resistance by Black and brown trans women paved the way for the LGBTQ plus movement so many decades ago, as was just mentioned. Thank you, Deborah Porter and Erin Walters, for your honest words. Thank you also to Aja Blair and city staff members of the LGBTQ plus and Friends Affinity Group for your work on the proclamation and in elevating equity issues, not just in the month of June, but throughout the year. And thank you to Claire Adamsick on my staff, who again has taught me so much. Thank you and happy Pride.
Thank you so much, colleagues. The resolution that I will read is on behalf of the entire City Council. And I just want to say I've known Deborah Porter for at least 25 of my 30 years here in Portland, and it's been an honor to participate in community protests and to stand up for equal rights for all people in our community side by side. And the Pride Parade, man, that is one of the most fascinating and fabulous and joyful occasions that we all look forward to each year. This year, we will not have that honor, but our hearts and souls are still in Pride and in the parade and making sure that we live up to the dream of equality for all. So at this time, I will read the proclamation. Whereas the city of Portland is committed to diversity, social justice, equity, and mutual respect as a fundamental aspect of a healthy community. And whereas in any movement, it is imperative to center the voices of the most marginalized and acknowledge the pain and struggle of the LGBTQ plus community, especially transgender women of color who have helped lead the movement and continue to fight for basic human rights despite being continuously denied them. And whereas the long and ongoing struggle of transgender, genderqueer, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and other sexual minorities for basic civil and human rights continues to provide inspiration to all of those who work against discrimination and oppression. And whereas the presence and visibility of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer community continues to enhance the quality of life in the city of Portland. Whereas 2020 marks the 50th anniversary of Pride around the world and the 26th birthday of Pride Northwest, Inc., producers of the Portland Pride Waterfront Parade and Festival since 1994. And whereas Pride celebrations have been held continuously in Portland since 1971 and Pride marches since 1976. And whereas now more than ever, it is important to not overlook the LGBTQ plus community and allow them to be visible during physical and social distancing measures. And whereas the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the daily lives and activities for all of us, including our annual Pride celebration. But that does not mean that folks in our community have lost their pride. Now, therefore, I, President of the Council, do hereby declare June of 2020 to be Portland Pride Month in Portland and encourage all residents to observe this month as so. Thank you so much for once again giving us the opportunity to acknowledge the incredible work that is done by our LGBTQ plus community. And we stand with you in pride and appreciation for all that you have brought to our community. Thank you so, so much. And with that, we officially proclaim Pride Day, Pride Month. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to check the time. We are ahead of time. So I'm going to go to Commissioner Udaley, who has an item that we need to address before our next time certain.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. We have a PBOT item on the consent agenda. It is item number 442. PBOT staff occasionally.
Commissioner, I'm going to have the clerk read the item and then you can tell us about it. Okay, Carla, would you read 442?
Yes. Amend driveways code to update and add clarification for the permitting and condition of driveways.
Thank you. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Carla. Occasionally, PBOT staff identify the need to clarify and update city code, but we are pulling this item back to further refine it. So it will not be on tomorrow. It won't be presented tomorrow. I think I said what I need to say.
Okay. So you're pulling it back to your office for additional work. Thank you very much, Commissioner Udaley. Our next item is a time certain at 10:05. My clock says it's 10:01. And so we will take a brief agenda unless there's something that we can do for 4 minutes. Nothing lasts 4 minutes on our agenda. So I think that we will take a recess for 4 minutes.
Item 432, appoint John Casey Mills, Alejandra Cortez, Alejandro Orizola, David Staczek, Juan Piantino, and Pune Abdul Husseini, and reappoint Paul Agrimis and Mike Elliott to the Portland Parks and Recreation Board.
Thank you. I believe that Director Long is here to make this presentation.
Good morning, Commissioner Hardesty,
Good morning.
Commissioner Udaley, and Commissioner Fritz. I was sorry to hear that the mayor is not joining us today, and want to send our condolences to him and his family. For the record, my name is Adina Long. I am the Director of Portland Parks and Recreation. Our mission is to support our community's health by providing healthy parks and natural areas, urban forest management, recreation, programming for preschoolers to seniors, and facilities that are accessible to all Portlanders. COVID-19 and the community protests are proving how vital our park system is to the community. Our advisory board was established by council in 2001 with the mission to ensure that we strive to deliver the park system that Portlanders deserve. As you know, Parks is struggling to meet the needs of our community with a lack of adequate funding for operations, maintenance, and programming. We are currently pressing forward to identifying alternative funding to ensure a sustainable future for our park system so we can fulfill our mission and keep our doors open. This year, the board will be saying goodbye to 4 members who have served 2 full terms: Pat Frobes, Kendall Clausen, Gladys Ruiz, and Jim Owens. Their leadership, advocacy, and passion has helped our mission and ensured that equity continues to be centered in discussions and decision-making. There are 2 additional vacancies to fill left by members who have resigned. One of their terms ends at the end of this month, and the other ends June 30th, 2021. Earlier this year, the board selected members to serve on their nominating committee. They drove the recruitment effort with bureau support and received 20 applications. Following the recruitment, application review, and interviews, the board voted at their May meeting to recommend Casey Mills, Alejandra Cortez, Alejandro Orizola, David Staczek, Juan Piantino, and Pune Abdul Hassani for board appointment. I'd like to share with you some highlights from their bios provided in the appointment report. Casey Mills is a retired lawyer who practiced for 30 years, focusing on reorganizations of financially troubled businesses. He lives in the South Waterfront and presently runs a website about Oregon golf courses. Casey has helped to create and direct diversity and equity programs and regularly volunteers for a variety of conservation organizations. He believes that equitable access to safe, open, and natural spaces for all Portlanders is the key for productive, successful, and healthy Portland, and wants to help the city retain a positive legacy of an exceptional park system. Alejandra Cortez is a biologist, naturalist, and an environmental educator for Metro Regional Government, residing in Vancouver, Washington. She has over a decade of experience conducting community-centered engagement and environmental advocacy. She would like to contribute to a safe and welcoming park system for all people of Portland. She is passionate about environmental justice, anti-racism work, and green space accessibility. Alejandro Orizola is the Conservation Director for the Forest Park Conservancy. He has over 10 years of experience in the planning and implementation of land conservation strategies and projects in both Chile and the US. Alejandro is convinced parks and natural areas play a critical role in the community's mental and physical health and in addressing issues of equity. David Staczek is an architect and designer at ZGF Architects. Originally from Toledo, Ohio, David found his way out west in 1992. In the last 28 years, David has worked to plan, expand, and renovate local and regional hospital campuses. David's work with healthcare institutions to design nurturing and healing environments has fostered a deeper appreciation for the healing power of nature. He is an avid mountain biker, and he is excited to support Portland Parks and the work to continue making Portland a great place to live, work, and play. Juan Piantino is a child neurologist at Oregon Health and Science University. Originally from Buenos Aires, Juan moved to Oregon 6 years ago with his wife and their 3 boys. As a father and a physician who takes care of children with brain disorders, Juan understands the importance of open and safe spaces for recreation. Over the past 10 years, Juan has done extensive work with the Latino population, engaging them in health-related issues. Juan is excited to work with PPNR and provide access to parks for all communities. Pune Abdul Hosseini currently coordinates the operational needs of the Regional Illegal Dumping Program for Oregon Metro Regional Government. Before this role, she worked in the Parks and Nature Department, where she managed the Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Action Plan. She also oversaw an environmental education field trip program that served over 8,000 students a year. This included researching and updating content to be culturally responsive and respectful, and identifying the history around how white supremacy culture shaped and continues to affect our views of nature and wildness. Casey's appointment would fill the partial term left vacant that ends June 30th, 2021, with the option to be reappointed to a full 3-year term next year. Juan Alejandro, David Pune, and Alejandre's appointments would be for the first 3-year term ending June 30th, 2023. The board has 2 members up for reappointment. At the May meeting, the board voted to reappoint Paul Agrimas and Mike Elliott. Paul will complete his first full term, and Mike is finishing a partial term appointment at the end of this month. Paul Agrimas, the current board chair, is a landscape architect, civil engineer, and professional wetland scientist with over 30 years of experience in environmental planning and design. Paul lives in Northeast Portland and seeks to create places that integrate cultural and regional context, meet the needs and interests of site visitors, and will become community and regional destinations. Paul is excited to continue engaging PPNR leadership to determine a sustainable future and shape important components of a healthy park system for Portland. Mike Elliott has nearly 30 years of experience with national employee benefits consulting firms. He is an analytical system thinker with broad-based experience that includes management, budgeting, consensus building, strategic planning, and consulting. A 3rd-generation Oregonian, Mike is excited about serving the community to help ensure fair and equitable access to the city's abundant outdoor space and recreation programs. He believes that helping Portlanders play has very strong benefits to our collective physical and mental well-being. Paul and Mike's reappointment to the board would be for a 3-year term ending on June 30th, 2023. We know that this board's advocacy and collaboration will be important for the success of a sustainable future for parks, and we are looking forward to welcoming these community members joining the board this summer. We have submitted the report for these board appointments and reappointments for your consideration and approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Long. Any questions for Director Long? Seeing none from my colleagues, Director Long, did any of the appointees sign up to testify today?
I'm unaware.
Excellent. In that case, if there are no questions, I will ask a caller to call the roll.
Udaley?
Thank you, Director Long, and thank you to everyone who's stepping up to serve the city. This sounds like a really wonderful group of nominees, appointees, and I'm happy to vote aye.
Fritz?
Thank you. I think we're supposed to move the report, but let's just take that as read. It's okay. Obviously, we're all very supportive of the nominees, and I appreciate their willingness to serve. I need to note, Patricia Forbes and Kendall Clausen have done an absolutely amazing job on the Parks Board, and I know that Commissioner Fish also appreciated their service. And this is one of the most diverse and talented groups of boards and commissions that we have, and it was an absolute honor to work with them for 5 years. I really appreciated all of the advice and insightfulness that they have done. Thanks also to Gladys Ruiz and Jim Owens, who also have given great service. And particularly congratulations, Director Long, on this amazing group of people who bring such a wide variety of talents and experiences as you move forward with re-envisioning the park system and how it's funded. It seems like you have a fabulous group of folks ready to assist. Aye.
Hardesty.
I also want to really compliment Director Long. This is a really diverse, talented group of appointees and reappointees, and they will be critical to help us think about how we provide park services to all community members in the years to come. I am so thrilled to see the intentionality around ensuring the diversity of appointees to the Parks Board. Parks is one of our gems in this community, and we need people that are committed to making sure that we will have parks access for everyone in our community for a long time to come. I am pleased to vote aye in favor of adopting this report. Thank you, Commissioner Long.
Thank you for that promotion. And also thank you, commissioners.
Have a great day. And let's see, we're going to move on. It is too early for our next time certain, so I will just move to our regular agenda. And our regular agenda, if I could have caller read 444, please.
Authorize borrowing of not more than $42 million in anticipation of the Fire and Police Disability and Retirement Fund levy for fiscal year 2020-21.
Thank you. And who do we have that's presenting on this item today?
Hi, I'm Matt Gierock, the debt manager in the Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services.
Thank you, Matt. Please take it away.
Sure, thank you. So this ordinance authorizes the city to issue up to $42 million of tax anticipation notes to finance the projected annual fiscal year 2021 cash flow deficit in the Fire and Police Disability and Retirement Fund. Under Chapter 5 of the city charter, the city's Fire and Police Retirement Fund is funded annually through the FPDNR property tax levy based on amounts needed to pay and discharge all requirements of the fund for that year. And you may recall that the FPDNR levy is separate from the city's general government levy and other levies. The vast majority of the FPDNR levy collections are received in mid-November of each fiscal year, resulting in insufficient fund balance during the July through October timeframe. During each fiscal year, the city utilizes tax anticipation notes, referred to as TANs, to provide interim funding for expenditures that occur during this period. Tax anticipation notes are short-term debt instruments that typically mature within 1 year of issuance. The city's debt management division will be facilitating a sale of the 2020 TANs as early as July, with the scheduled closing in August, and the 2020 TANs will subsequently mature later in the fiscal year. Based on today's capital markets conditions, our estimated borrowing rate is approximately 0.5%, though this will vary depending on market conditions that occur on the date of sale when the interest rates are locked. We were originally looking to have this presented as an emergency ordinance, but I know that it sounds like we don't have quorum for emergency ordinance, so I think it would be fine to have this be as a regular ordinance. So happy to answer any questions on that.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions, colleagues?
I have my hand up.
Thank you, Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you for the presentation, Matt. I would suggest that instead of taking the emergency off, we just set it over to and vote on it tomorrow when the mayor's back.
Oh, okay. That works too.
Thank you, Commissioner Fritz. We will, with no objections from my colleagues, we could set this over and vote on it as an emergency as part of tomorrow's agenda. Carla, can you tell us whether when that would take place tomorrow? My apologies, caller. Actually, it would just take place at the beginning of the regular agenda tomorrow. I was thinking we had more than one council meeting tomorrow. Thank you, Matt, for your presentation. This is a first reading. Anticipating we're going to vote on it tomorrow with an emergency clause added, if we can. Thank you.
Commissioner Hardesty, this is Keelan. I'm sorry. We actually have one person signed up for public testimony for this item.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Please, caller, would you read the community member who signed up?
Thank you. It looks like Caitlin Nissen.
Welcome, Caitlin.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I actually was not prepared. I really did not think I was going to be heard today.
Well, here you are.
Great, well, thank you. I am very excited to be here. I have a written testimony. Oh my goodness, okay. Growing up in the Pacific Northwest, now I'm sorry, I just joined. Are we talking about the budget?
No, ma'am, we're talking about item 444, which is authorizing us to borrow money as it relates to the Fire and Police Disability and Retirement Fund. So this is something we do every year as we're waiting for property tax dollars to come in order to fund the retirement for police and fire. We will be doing the budget presentation starting at 2 p.m. this afternoon.
Okay. Well, I just have something I'd like to say about funds preemptively going into retirement for police. With the way our state is currently, growing up in the Pacific Northwest was a blessed experience. In 3rd grade, my teacher, Miss Michaels in Gig Harbor, she taught our class about civil rights. I was a young child who would go home outraged from what I had seen and learned about discrimination in America. And I would mimic Martin Luther King by making my own protest signs for equality at 8 years old. And that was about 2000. Since then, I thought I knew who I was, standing up for any person that I thought needed it. For a time, I even dedicated my life to learning American Sign Language because I felt it could help make a difference. I guess you could say I've been a liberal my entire life and supported body autonomy, gun control, and free speech. Today, free speech is a subscription limited to the people on the left. As long as you want to promote diversity of the correct race or gender. I have a specific example of this in our Portland economy. On June 1st, our police chief, Jamie, decided to step down in result of the protests, which was a commendable act on her part. And also, she wanted to promote diversity in the Portland Police Bureau. And by doing this, she decided to promote Mike Krantz, an Asian American in Portland, Oregon. He was promoted to the assistant chief of the Portland Police Bureau. And now, mind you, our police chief who's stepping down is a woman, and her being in a position of power is extremely inspiring. But movements such as the Black Male Achievement Group, the Coalition of Black Men, and Word is Bond had this to say, reported by the Oregonian. These groups were outraged that Krantz was appointed without community input and that his selection made the Bureau's command staff, Wretch's deputy chief, and 3 assistants chief, all white men. These groups also called this whitewashing by our Portland Police Bureau, who has stood by us in the riots. They stood up for our rights, and they stood up for us to be able to have business and have a productive society for our most impoverished groups in Portland, Oregon. They stood up for those people. Now, I agree with everybody protesting. I want to show my support for them because I think everyone should have the right to do that. But I think we need to have hope and faith in our police department that they are indeed promoting diversity, and they are showing a great attempt to do that. And I support their attempt to show diversity. I do also support more people of color being in the police force. I would also like to say that as well. But in closing, I don't expect to change anyone's mind today. That seems a very moot point in the state of our country. But to preemptively adjust the budget and defund—
Time is up.
I'm almost done. I really appreciate, but to preemptively put money into retirement funds for our Portland police is a bad choice politically for you Democratic people running for mayor, council next year. Being a longtime liberal, I can say with confidence that defunding our police will affect our most vulnerable and impoverished communities. And in closing, with regret, I would just like to say I will not be voting democratically. I want to see our police supported. I've been a longtime liberal, and you guys are pushing us out. You're pushing people out of your own party by defunding the police. And
Caitlin, thank you so much. I'm sorry, Caitlin, your time is up. I really greatly appreciate you being here, even though this is not the item we're talking about. I wanted to give you a chance to actually speak on it. I greatly appreciate your voice, and I greatly appreciate you being here speaking today. Thank you so much. The next agenda item, 445. I'm sorry, let's be clear. So this item 444 will be moved to tomorrow's agenda with the expectation that we will add an emergency clause and vote on it tomorrow. Now we'll move on to item 445. And I'm going to encourage people who've signed up to speak on the budget that will happen this afternoon, starting at 2 p.m. And I'm going to be keeping people on track on the topic that we are actually voting on. I know there's a lot of passion around the budget, and we will have ample time this afternoon to deal with that passion and that input. So I greatly appreciate people paying attention. But caller, please read 445.
Amend contract with Marsh USA Inc. for insurance brokerage services for owner-controlled insurance Phase 6.
Thank you very much. And who do we have speaking on 445? We have Mike Reiner.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Commissioner
Mike.
Hardesty. Lester Spittler's here too.
Hi, Lester. Excellent. Who's going to present?
I'll go first and then I'll hand it off to Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hardesty. Good morning, Commissioner Udaley and Commissioner Fritz. For the record, I'm Lester Spittler, the city's Chief Procurement Officer. Mike Reiner, BES's Risk Management, is here today as well to give a brief overview of the advantages and benefits of an owner-controlled insurance program, not just for the city, but for contractors and subcontractors as well. We're here today with a contract amendment primarily due to the fact that we weren't able to award the owner-controlled insurance program scope of work from a recent request for proposals that we issued for the Risk Management Division within the Bureau of Revenue and Financial Services. Before we issued that RFP last fall, there was a collective decision to combine risk management's scope of work for insurance brokerage services with the owner-controlled insurance program scope of work from BES to attract the most attention and the best response from the market. As a result of the RFP, we received 4 proposals, and unfortunately, the highest scoring firm for brokerage services was not the highest scoring firm for owner-controlled insurance program services. So that scope of work went unawarded from the RFP. Subsequent to that decision, it was determined that the contract with Marsh had the potential to be extended for 5 additional years. So Mike Reiner and BES began negotiating with Marsh using the information that we obtained from the market as a result of the RFP. Although it's not where we had planned to be today, the resulting amendment before you represents a better deal than what we received from the RFP, actually, from all 4 proposers from both a price and an equity standpoint. Marsh proposed the highest amount of certified sub-consultant utilization with their partnership with the National Insurance Consultants Incorporated, doing business as Transportation Management Services. They are a state of Oregon certified disadvantaged and minority-owned business enterprise, and the company is owned by an African-American male. So in addition to that outcome, Marsh also proposed an amount for the next 5 years that was less than any of the proposals we received for the RFP. So credit to Mike for the negotiation and his ability to get a better outcome. And I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about the procurement or contracting process, but if not, I'll hand it off to Mike to summarize the benefits and advantages.
Lester, I just want to applaud the outcome of this particular proposal. You know how critical I am mostly when you bring these proposals in front of me. And I want to thank Mike for his excellent negotiating skills to get us this excellent contract. Mike, would you like to add anything?
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mike Reiner, and I am the Risk Services Manager with BES. To give you a little background on owner-controlled insurance, we started the program with legislative approval back in 1996. And basically what the OSIP is a broad insurance program on which we procure insurance on behalf of our general contractors and our subcontractors that are doing work on our capital improvement projects. We purchase workers' comp, general liability, builder's risk, excess insurance, and other specialty coverages to ensure the contractors that are doing work on our jobs. And in lieu of the city procuring the insurance, the contractors then deduct their insurance costs from their bids. One of the main benefits of this program is it's even the playing field from a DMWESB perspective, where small businesses are able to compete from an insurance perspective with larger insurance companies. Early on in the program, we did outreach at Awami, did risk management 101. We taught contractors how to assess risk and develop site-specific safety and health plans on our projects. And it's one of the things that I'm really proud of is some of the feedback that we've gotten from the community is that when they leave a City of Portland job, they're a safer contractor. And they've seen their insurance rates drop, which actually becomes profit to them. So that's one of the neat benefits of the program that I'm super proud of. Secondly, I just want to say that we are in the top 5% of insureds in Oregon from a risk management and safety perspective. We saved roughly over $20 million over the life of the program and have received dividends from SAFE for our safety and risk management performance over 2.5 million. So as we move into OSIP Phase 6, which is beginning the 25th year of the program, I'm excited to continue our work with Marsh and providing the risk and safety and loss prevention services on our projects to protect our employees and the general public. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and great work in actually creating a more equitable contract. Do we have testimony, public testimony on this item, Carla?
I do not see anyone signed up with that agenda number on them.
Are there any questions from my colleagues? This is a first reading. We will move it to a second reading. Carla, please read item 446.
Sorry, 446. Accept the 2019 Title 11 Trees Trust Funds Report.
Thank you. And who's presenting on this item today? I'm assuming it's our Director Long or someone else here to testify on this item. No one? Unless you're muted.
Hey, Commissioner, this is Derek. It's my understanding that the mayor had requested those get pulled, 446 and 447 get pulled back to his office.
Thank you very much. My apologies. As per the mayor's request, we are pulling 446 and 447 back, and it will come back at a later date. Thank you for that, Derek. Caller, would you read 448, please?
Should read 447's title first and then.
Oh, yes, 446 and 447 title, and then we'll
Okay.
send them back. Thank you.
Okay, so we read 446. 447 is approve the designation of 13 trees as City of Portland heritage trees and remove the heritage tree designation from one tree.
Thank you, Carla. 448, please.
448, authorize a contract with the lowest responsible bidder for the Northwest Cornell Tunnel Rehabilitation Project for an estimated $3,180,000.
Thank you. Commissioner Daly.
Thank you, Madam President. There is some confusion as to whether or not I am pulling this back to my office. So if there is someone from PBOT here who can clarify that, I'd appreciate it. It's an emergency item, so. Anybody?
Commissioner Daly, I think we have our answer. I guess we'll pull this back to another day. What would you?
Yeah, yes. So I'll pull this item and we'll bring it. In light of how demanding our schedule today is going to be, we've just been pulling every item that we can. So yeah, I'll pull this back to my office.
Thank you, Commissioner Daly. I concur. Clearly, all of us understand that we're going to be really, really, really busy today. And I appreciate my colleagues helping to clear the agenda so that we can get to some other really critical issues today. And so at the request of Commissioner Daly, and I believe that 449 has also been pulled back. Is that correct? Excellent. So now we will go back to.
We have to read it though.
Oh, okay. Yes, yeah. That is correct. Caller, would you please read 449?
Increase fee schedule for the Office of Community and Civic Life noise program for noise variance applications in the amount of 5% as permitted by Code Section 8.14.020.b.
Commissioner Daly has requested that item go back to her office and it will be rescheduled at a later date.
Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. It is still too early for our consent agenda, so we will go back. I'm sorry, it's still too early for our time certain at 11. And so I'd like to go back to the items that have been pulled off the consent agenda that are still up for conversation. I believe that would be starting with 4.3. Actually, caller, would you confirm for me which items off the consent agenda have been pulled for another day?
We had the request for 437, 438, 439, 440, and 441. And it is my understanding the mayor's office has requested that, yes, these are pulled, but they be continued to the regular agenda next week.
Thank you.
So we could read those items and then just carry them over to next week's regular agenda.
Okay, so caller, if you would be kind enough to read each one, and then we will just officially carry it over to next week. Thank you.
Certainly. Oops, sorry. Lost my agenda here.
That's okay. It's one of those kind of days, right? We are going with the flow. We will be just fine.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, 437, pay settlement of Ryan Ashland bodily injury claim for the sum of $85,000 resulting from a motor vehicle collision involving the Portland Police Bureau. 438, pay settlement of Natasha Lester bodily injury claim for the sum of $35,000 involving the Portland Police Bureau. And 439, pay property damage claim of Mark Quinmata in the sum of $7,209 resulting from a motor vehicle collision involving the Portland Police Bureau. And 441, accept and appropriate $20,000 grant from Oregon Department of Education Community Nutrition Program Startup and Expansion Grant for the at-risk after-school and summer meals program.
Thank you very much, Carla. Those items will be rescheduled at a later date. So Carla, I want to confirm that we still have 434 and 435 and 436 that we will be hearing today. Is that accurate?
Did you say 433? Yes. The 11 o'clock time certain?
Yes, I did not say that one, but yes, I know that one because we're still waiting for 11 o'clock. We cannot do that before 11. But my understanding is we had 3 items still remaining on the consent agenda, and we could start hearing those. Is that correct?
I believe we were going to just continue the consent agenda, those remaining items to next week as well. Was that correct, Robert?
Yes, Carla.
Okay, yes, thanks.
Okay, and have we already read 434, 435, and 436?
We will not need to read those individually because we're just continuing those remainder consent items to next week. They'll
Okay.
consent next week.
I just want to make sure that me and the public both understand what we're doing here. Thank you.
Sure.
And so based on that, it appears that we only have one item left on our morning agenda, and that is the 11 a.m. time certain. Is that correct?
That's what I show, yes.
Well, clearly we cannot take that item prior to 11 a.m. So can we take a recess until 11 a.m. to hear our agenda item with the time certain?
Okay.
Thank you all. See you at 11. City Council back to order. Caller, if you will read our 11 a.m. time certain item 433.
Amend Planning and Zoning Code, the comprehensive plan map, and the zoning map to implement the expanding opportunities for affordable housing project.
Thank you. Eric Engstrom, take it away.
Good morning, commissioners. For the record, my name is Eric Engstrom. I'm with the Bureau of Planning and Sustainability, and Nan Stark, who's also with BPS, is here with me. We're here to take the next steps towards the final vote on the Expanding Opportunities for Affordable Housing project. The project, as you recall, includes two items: some zoning code changes to allow conditional use institutions in residential zones to add housing to their sites without having to revise their conditional use permit, as well as zoning map and comprehensive plan map amendments on a number of other sites, institutional sites, where it would facilitate more specific opportunities. On May 14th, you held a public hearing and took testimony on this item. Some of the testimony suggested additional sites be considered for zoning changes, and there was also testimony expressing concern about several of the sites. You also discussed your own concerns about that the projects actually result in regulated affordable housing. You extended the comment period for written comments until May 20th, and then on May 21st, you gave us preliminary direction to develop several amendments, including adding affordability requirements to the code proposal, removing Southwest Boundary Street from the package, and accepting a compromise zoning proposal on one of the sites. On May 27th, you voted on those amendments and then gave us direction on some follow-up items, one of which was to make this an emergency ordinance effective on the 15th. And we also asked for some time to prepare updated findings to reflect your decision. So with all that in mind, we brought back several things for you today. And it's my understanding, by the way, that because of the mayor's absence, we'll continue this item for the final vote, but we'll make a couple motions to take the next steps today.
Excellent.
So first, we've brought back an Exhibit A, a revised Exhibit A with updated findings, and we're asking for a motion to substitute this in place of the previous version. Second, we have incorporated your changes into the revised Exhibit B, which is the as amended project report. So the code and the maps now reflect your amendments. And we also updated the commentary in that report to reflect your legislative intent. So that's a second motion. And then finally, we made some changes to the ordinance to add the emergency clause and incorporate two additional directives consistent with the discussion you had last time. The first directive concerns several specific sites that you had testimony about. And in the interest of moving this package as quickly forward as possible, your directive was to have us bring a recommendation on those back in the fall or in a few months. The second directive points to a broader community-led scoping exercise to that we would do as a next step to work with community to develop a follow-up project. So we're asking for a motion to make these changes to the ordinance as well, consistent with the marked up copy we provided, which should be in your packet. And then I'll note that the emergency clause does list a specific date next week because this gives us time to publish the needed code changes to the website. And we'll of course have to change that date when we figure out when the final date is that we're voting on this. Nan is also here.
I'm sorry, Eric, would you like me to get a motion on each one of these first before you continue?
I think you could do it as a package unless there are questions on individual ones.
Okay.
Could I, this is
Lindley. If neither of my colleagues.
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Frisch.
Go ahead, Lindley.
Please.
No, go ahead.
So this is Lindley, City Attorney. I would suggest that before moving the amendments that you figure out with Carla what date you're going to come back, because one of the amendments, which is the emergency clause saying when the code amendments will come into effect, is dependent on when this comes back for its final vote. And it may be as soon as next week, but I just want to make sure.
Thank you, thank you, Lindley. Commissioner Fritz.
Well, it seems like it was ready to go. And so potentially we could move the amendments as a package and then vote tomorrow. I believe the mayor's, I know we've got a lot on the agenda tomorrow, but this is it would seem like it's a fairly quick vote. Would that work, Lindley?
It may depend on how much you have on the agenda tomorrow. I will tell you, I think the thought was, Commissioner Fritz, that we would simply push this to next Wednesday for a 5-minute item. So today you would move, second, and vote on the proposed amendments. So essentially it would all be queued up for a final vote. And then you would have the effective date 1 week after that. So it would only delay it by a week. It is my understanding tomorrow is fairly packed, but that's, again, council's prerogative.
Thank you, that's helpful. So what you need from Carla is a 5-minute time certain on Wednesday. Is that correct?
That sounds like that is correct. Caller, is that possible next week?
Yes, we could do it in the morning at 10:45 a.m. That's Wednesday, June 17th.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Please continue, Eric. It sounds like we got a plan to move forward. So please let you finish your presentation. We'll get to the
How
vote.
about if I move the amendment? I'll move the amendments as a package.
So the amendments package has been moved. Is there a second?
I'll just
Second.
clarify that with the amendment going to the Wednesday session, I guess we would make the effective date be the 22nd rather than the 15th. Is that correct?
That would be correct. That would be a week later, yes. Commissioner Udaley, were you about to second?
I did second, yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I think we could actually push the effective date a little bit earlier because it can take effect immediately. We were queued up to make it June 15th. So if the reading is on June 17th, it could be effective that day or the next day or two.
Lindley, would you like to wait? Wait, let us stop. Let's have the vote on the amendments and let's talk, and then we can talk about when it takes effect and et cetera, okay? One thing at a time. So we're in the middle of a vote. Caller, please call the roll.
Udaley.
Aye.
Fritz.
So aye, with the caveat that the date might change in the package of amendments. Aye.
Hardesty.
Aye. So the motion passes. Caller, or Lindley, who would like to weigh in on whether or not another week or whether we just, it takes effect within a couple of days? Lindley, I think we need your advice first, and then I'll go back to Holly.
All right, so at this point, we have a motion that the code goes into effect on the 15th, which obviously isn't going to work. So we're going to need to have a subsequent amendment to change it to whatever date we decide. My understanding is that the reason we chose, typically an emergency ordinance goes into effect the date we adopt it, unless we specify another date. My understanding is that we specified another date because BDS needed time to publish the revised code. So really, I guess that's a question for Eric, is how many days did they need to get the code published?
I think we just need a day or two to make sure we have everything correct on the website. So if we wanted to, not wait till Monday and keep it in the same week, it could go to the Thursday or Friday, I suppose.
And so would that require us to put an emergency clause on it when we vote next Wednesday?
So Commissioner, the package of amendments you just voted on contains an emergency clause. So you don't need to do that. You need to amend the effective date in the emergency clause. And I would suggest, based on what Eric just said, you could have it be Friday. You wouldn't need to see Friday. You'd have it be June 17th, 2020 instead of June 15th, 2020. So you would need a motion, a second, and a vote on that. Is that, Eric, does that work?
The 18th would be a little bit more ideal just to make sure we have that turnaround time, but
Oh, I was suggesting the 19th, Eric.
I sorry, I heard you say the 17th.
I did too, but that's all
And I
good.
may have.
My thought is that the Friday has furloughs with a lot of people right now, so Thursday might be better.
Okay.
That sounds like a plan. So can I have a motion?
Move to amend the date to the 18th.
Second.
19th.
So Eric just said don't do it on the Friday.
It's been moved to take effect on what date, Commissioner Fritz?
Eric, did you say don't do it on the Friday?
I suggested Thursday the 18th just to avoid the day that a lot of people have furloughs.
That's what we'd
Yeah,
prefer
so
as well.
that was my motion.
Okay, so
Second.
the motion is change the effective date to June 18th. Commissioner Fritz has made a motion. Commissioner Daly has second. Caller, please call the roll.
Daly,
Aye.
Fritz,
Aye.
Hardesty,
Aye. I tell you, all the technicalities we have to get right is a little challenging some days, but we got it. Okay, Eric, back to you.
Okay, I think that's what we wanted to get out of you today. So the only thing left, I guess, would just be to say that you're continuing it on the next Wednesday.
That is correct. Any other questions, colleagues?
So just to clarify, sorry, Commissioner Lindley Reese,
Okay.
to clarify for the record, the matter is being continued to Wednesday, June 17th. And Carla, you said 10:45 a.m.?
that's correct.
And there will be no testimony. It will only be for a final vote on an emergency ordinance with an effective date of Thursday, June 18th, with all of the other amendments that staff had proposed.
That is correct. That's my understanding. Eric, he's smiling, so I think Eric agrees.
That's
with
correct.
us. Nan's smiling. Okay, so I think we're all good. Nobody's upset about this. Excellent. So with no other questions or testimony about this issue, is there testimony, by the way?
No.
All right. We have completed our business for today, and we stand adjourned.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you all.